Hello, everyone. I am Heather Fromack. I am the Program Manager for HSLDA's Educational Consultants. And today is going to be a really interesting day because I get to have a conversation with Sarah Grinnell, who is brand new to homeschooling, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so a lot of people are brand new to homeschooling. Homeschooling is a very fast-growing educational choice. We have had literally thousands of people coming into the homeschooling movement, some because they were really excited about it, some because they're terrified and had no other options. And so it's really helpful to hear other people's stories because everybody's story is a little bit different. So first of all, just tell us a little bit about yourself, Sarah.
Okay, so I've been living in the Northern Virginia area for about 16 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Been married the same amount of time. I married my high school sweetheart.
Mm-hmm.
I got a bachelor's degree in math and went right to work right after we got married. My husband was in grad school, and I got a job as an analyst with a government contractor. And then I kind of stayed in that world. I've switched jobs a couple times, and then also changed from cost analysis to aviation analysis and safety analysis. So I've done lots of different things with numbers.
Lots of analyzing.
Yes.
Yes.
Numbers are where I like to be, being a math major.
Oh gosh, I'm so grateful there are people like you because I am not one of those people.
I hear that a lot.
That's great. So you were in the corporate world for full time for
about 14, 15 years.
And did you enjoy that? Did you see yourself as kind of a career woman, or was that?
I did. I think if you'd asked me a decade ago if I was planning to have 3 kids and homeschool one of them, I think the answer would have been no. Definitely,
right.
Definitely not. You know, I wasn't looking to break any glass ceilings or climb the corporate ladder necessarily, but I was really comfortable in the office environment, you know, playing with numbers all day, being with other adults all day. That was where I really liked to be.
So numbers and analyzing and going to work each day, all of that was a part of your life. And then you had children. So
yes.
Tell us a little bit about your children, how many you have and how old they are.
So I have a 9-year-old daughter, and I have a 8-year-old son and a 3.5-year-old daughter.
Oh, you have lots of the different ages. That's
I do.
Really fun.
We're very busy.
Yes, that's right. I get that. And so you haven't been homeschooling the whole time because your oldest is 9, right?
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about that journey into homeschooling.
Okay, so I actually only homeschool one of my children. I homeschool my son. My daughter is in 5th grade in public school and really enjoying it and doing great there. So we chose to leave her there. My son is being homeschooled this year. He sort of like putting a square peg into a round hole. He loves to learn, but the classroom environment just didn't really seem to be the right place for him to do that. So we opted to pull him out this year, and we're loving it. He's really enjoying it. He's really growing, and it's been great. And then my 3.5-year-old is in private preschool 2 days a week. That's where she is this morning.
Nice, very helpful.
Yes.
You can concentrate.
Yes. Yeah, and she's loving it. She loves the social aspect. And, you know, since her brother's homeschooled, she's learning a lot at home. And so we're not doing so much learning at preschool. It's really the social interaction that she's getting with her peers. And she's loving it.
So can you tell us a little bit about your journey to making that decision? You said your son was not really fitting in a traditional school environment, which is a very, very common story. I have a few of those myself. But surely this didn't happen overnight. This decision didn't happen overnight. Or maybe it did. Tell us about it.
No. So we were kind of watching last year, I think as soon as he started 2nd grade, you know, his teacher was great last year, and she contacted us right away and said that, you know, he was having some issues, maybe, you know, focusing in the classroom and some things like that. But clearly he was capable of doing the work. We just weren't getting it done. And so we went back and forth with the teacher all year, and she was really great in trying to work with us. And in the end, we ended up making the decision over the summer. It took us kind of that long to really decide what we were going to do. And he wanted to do it. His best friend is actually homeschooled. He was pulled out the year before.
Yeah, so that's great.
So of course he wanted to homeschool and be like his best friend. And so he had no qualms about it. And we thought we would try it for a year. We said from the beginning that this would be kind of a year by year sort of thing. We weren't going to make any rush decisions right away. So, you know, we don't really know what we're doing next year yet. We're just kind of taking it a day or a week at a time.
So did your son's friend's mother, was she kind of somebody who could help you kind of cast a vision for what homeschooling was going to look like? Or
she did a little bit. So there are so many different ways to homeschool, right? And I actually have, you know, looking back, I think, you know, like I said, if you'd asked me a decade ago if I would be homeschooling my son, I would have laughed at you and said, no way. And I can look back and see kind of how God was sort of softening me and bringing me
Yeah.
to a point where I would be ready to homeschool. So I met somebody who had successfully homeschooled her children and transitioned them to public school, and they went to college and they did great. And so there's a success story that I saw. And then I came into contact with other people that were currently homeschooling their children. And so, yes, his best friend's mom, definitely, we sat down and talked about what resources she was using, and kind of where I could look. But I also had several other friends to reach out to. I was amazed at how many people are homeschooling now. There's actually so many options.
There are.
So
we're not just the weirdos hiding in the corner anymore.
Right. No, there's so many people. So that was great. And yes, I've leaned on several friends actually to help me out. That's
really great. So what has your, what was your plan? What did you guys decide to do in terms of curriculum? How did you figure all that stuff out?
So there are a million options for curriculum now, given that there are so many homeschoolers. There's actually one of the challenges was kind of narrowing down what do we want to do? What kind of learner is my son? What's the best way forward? And I ended up, one of my friends said, well, I have some leftover curriculum from when my kids were that age. Would you like to have it? I'll send it to you for the cost of shipping. And I said, great, that's what we're going to use.
Yeah, that made it easy.
So when we pieced together some things, it was a complete curriculum with science and math and everything in it. And we're just really using the language arts and history pieces.
Okay.
And then we're doing a kind of our own thing for science and math. My son loves science, so we're kind of making it up as we go. So like right now we're doing a unit on the science of cooking because it's the holiday season and we're in the kitchen anyway. So we're doing a lot of baking and cooking and watching shows about being, a chef and the science of the kitchen. So we're doing a little bit of everything.
So you are doing a little bit of a traditional curriculum.
Right.
And what about the skills that you developed in your corporate life? What are you finding that you bring into the curriculum or bring into your homeschool that you might have developed through all those years in the corporate world?
So I think, as far as like habits and daily things, just keeping a clean desk and moving from one task to the other. I think, multitasking was a really big thing for a while, but that's not really a thing. We try to actually focus on, one thing at a time, clear your papers away when you're done with grammar and let's get out science and kind of keeping that organization. I think one of the other things I learned from the corporate world was setting expectations. I worked for customers a lot. I worked on contracts. And so setting expectations with your customer, or even with your management, I have a certain number of hours to work. I have, this many people on my team, this is what we can do for you. I have this data available. This is what I can offer you as far as analysis products. So I do that with my son. Actually, we use a spiral notebook every day, and I write down all of his tasks every day in the morning, even though I have a teacher's manual with our curriculum mostly in it, because we're kind of free-forming some things. I write it all out for him so I can see how much he has to do, and he can see what he has to do every day. So communicating those expectations to him so that if we have a busy day, he knows that up front. He's not surprised by how much we have to do. And so I think that communication is really key. It really carried over from my corporate experience to home life.
That makes really good sense. I think one of the hardest things about homeschooling is the expectation part. Because you might see other people doing homeschooling in a certain way, or you might have an imagination of what it's supposed to look like. And I know just setting those goals and having realistic expectations, that's a unique skill set, actually, that you brought into your homeschool that a lot of us struggle with. How about the math? Are you teaching the math and enjoying that? Or?
Yeah, so we're teaching math. He's great with numbers, and especially if they have dollar signs in front of him. He loves money.
So, I wonder what that means if this businessman or something in the future.
So, so we're teaching a math curriculum, and we make up math card games and things, and we do math online games. There's so much online now that it really makes things so much easier. If I don't know something, we look up a video, or if he's having trouble with a particular concept, we can find somebody else that explains it differently than I would have. And that makes things so much easier.
And what about the social part? So he comes from a public school setting where the socialization sometimes is just answered for people. He has his best friend who's homeschooling. What other social opportunities are you finding for him and for you?
Well, for me, it's tricky.
Yes, it's harder. Sometimes we forget ourselves in those needs.
Yes. So for my son, we're very involved with church. So we go to church Sunday mornings. He's involved with the Awana program at our church, which meets on Sunday afternoons.
Okay.
That's a second activity. He's in a sport every season, loves baseball, and he's in Cub Scouts. So we're getting a lot of socialization. In the evenings and on the weekends. We opted not to do a co-op this year.
Okay.
There are several co-ops in our area, but we made a late decision to homeschool in the summer, so most of them were full. And in addition, most of them require a volunteer commitment.
Okay.
And frankly, this year I didn't want to set us up to have too much on our plate. And with my daughter in preschool 2 mornings a week and another daughter that I need to get off the bus in the afternoons, our time is a little broken up this year. So we just didn't have that time to make a solid commitment to a co-op. So we opted not to do that this year.
Again, I'm really seeing, you may take this for granted about yourself, but I'm seeing just some really amazing capacity decisions that you're making. Because I think it's hard as a homeschooler. You assume, okay, I'm home, I can do everything. and then we find, oh gosh, we're stretched too thin this way. We're not having enough time to do things like math or science. But you came into this with those skills that you'd already developed over years of really looking at other people's lives and giving them good expectations from a business perspective and applying it to your own life, which seems to be helping with the successful feelings of homeschooling. How do you feel about it? You've said you feel like it's going well. You've only been into it, what, 3 months now, 4 months?
We started at the end of August when public school went back. So we're keeping the same schedule. Since my oldest is in public school, we take the same days off that she has off, and we do school the same day she has school. So I know some homeschoolers, do the flexibility thing where they can start during the summer. So we're not doing that. But it's working for us. So we don't have a set schedule every day. So even though we're in school, the same days public school is in, we don't have the same schedule every day. We run to the grocery store, we come out and do things like this. We drop the little one off at preschool and pick her up. And so we figured out how to bring work in the car, bring work to places that we're going. And then we just kind of keep things different every day. There's a little bit of routine in that, we do math every day and we do science every day, but when we do it is different. And so I think that kind of, at least for my son, it works for him. It keeps him engaged and interested rather than doing the exact same thing every day.
And was that hard for you to get to that place of flexibility, or did you enter it with that kind of mentality?
I kind of entered it with that mentality. So, you talked about capacity, and one of the challenges is definitely trying to still do all the things. I'm still trying to clean the bathrooms and vacuum the house and get all the regular things done on top of homeschooling. And so I knew that we were going to need to be flexible. I still wanted to get to the grocery store during the day and not have to go on the weekends when everybody else goes.
Yes, that is one of the great things about homeschooling, is being able to pick that time of day.
Right, but it takes away from the homeschooling time. And so, but my little one still takes a nap. And so we definitely use those couple of hours that she takes a nap after lunch. Those are definitely structured for school time. And then in the mornings, we kind of do whatever we need to do.
So how are you, now that he's home, are you seeing ways that you are engaging him in the day-to-day life, whether it's grocery shopping or cleaning the bathroom or whatever that might be, that is new for him and for you?
Some. So I think he sees more, what goes on in maintaining a household, and he helps out some. I mean, I had them help out some, putting away their own laundry and things anyway, little things here and there. But we homeschool for the morning, and then in the afternoon I'll tell him, okay, now I need to go clean the bathrooms. And he, wants to play or do an activity with me, and I say, well, this is how this works. This is part of being a mom, being an adult, is finding time to be with you. And I did school with you, and now I need to do things for the house as well. And so, so he gets to see that balance.
Yeah. And he sounds like he's adjusting really well to that.
Yeah, he's adjusting very well. He does a really good job. He's learning to entertain himself a little bit better. I think being in school, some of that is sort of taken away from kids, because you have activities given to you all day long. And so there's always something coming next. And so I think kind of when we're done with school for the day and I say, okay, I have to go do something else now, you're on your own. And he has to come up with what to do. And so I think he's building in a little bit more independence in that area.
So then with your transition into homeschooling, what about your relationships? How has that affected your ability to meet those social needs in your life?
So I went back to a small group. My church had a small group that I was in. Actually, I went with an old church. So a Bible study group that I was in on Sunday nights. I hadn't gone last year because we picked up sports for our kids and life had gotten really busy. And I told my husband in September, I said, okay, I'm going to have to go back because I need that time out of the house. I need that time, for my own soul and to kind of feed myself. And I love it. It's been great. And then I just have friends that reach out periodically during the week via text, or we try to still get together with play dates more for me than for the kids, really, so that I can see some mom friends. And so I'm still getting out, not maybe as much as I had been, but we're still making the time for that.
So what are some of the challenges then? Sounds like we've talked about a lot of the great things that are happening. What are some of the real life kind of challenges that have come from this change in your lives?
So one of the challenges that is a daily challenge is all the clutter. There's so much, just being home all the time. So as you mentioned, I do try to make good decisions about capacity and things, and I'm sort of control type A person, and that's kind of where my personality lies. So having 2 kids at home all the time, having papers on the kitchen table all the time, having toys out on the living room floor while my 3-year-old entertains herself while we're doing school, and at the end of the day, I don't even really want to pick it up because I know it's all going to come back out tomorrow.
Yeah, the second law of thermodynamics is
so that makes it, challenging, and just seeing, finding ways to reduce the clutter and to kind of put things away. So we try to clean up all the school stuff at the end of the day. And we try to kind of organize the toys sometimes. Thankfully we have a basement, and so sometimes I just send them down in the basement and I just close the door and I don't see any of the clutter. But I think that's one of the biggest challenges for me, just because it makes me a little bit stressed out to see all that stuff around the house.
Right. That is a change when you have children home all the time, and you're home all the time.
Yes.
When you're not leaving to go to work, you have to confront that every day.
Right.
So how are the other kids, how are your other 2 children processing this option that you're doing just with your son at the moment?
So my oldest, we talked with her about it this summer, and she had no interest in homeschooling this year. She was going to go into her last year of elementary school. She already had plans for the fun things that happen in 5th grade. She wanted to be with her friends. And she's doing great. She's thriving where she is. And so I didn't have a reason to pull her out. And so she's great. She's really fine with it. My 3-year-old struggles a little bit with the attention. She's used to getting all the attention from mom. And so having to share attention with her brother has been challenging, but we try to include her in activities when we can. And I'm shocked at how much she's learning. She picks up so many things.
Amazing?
It's like,
that vicarious learning that the other kids get is really an awesome part of homeschooling.
Yes, there's a science show that they love to watch, and she knows the tagline from it. She knows the name of the host. She explains the experiments to my husband when he gets home from work. So she's really loving all that stuff. She sits on my lap when we do geography and spins the globe with us.
That's
and,
great.
So that's been fun. It's definitely a challenge, but she's enjoying it.
Well, it sounds like a challenge that you're finding ways to bring her in. And that's always, when you have more than one child at home, especially when they're different grades, different ages, how to incorporate that. But right now, it sounds like you're focusing on your son and just enjoying what she's getting vicariously, and not necessarily trying to homeschool her as well.
So we're doing a little bit of reading and letter sounds and things like that you would maybe normally do with a 3 or 4-year-old, but we don't really sit down and do any structured school. I think she's still too young for that. So if anything, she likes to play games. She likes to play Hi-Ho Cheerio and the games that involve counting and things where they're learning anyway, right? And it makes it fun. Right. So we do things like that, but not really like learning.
So what other rewards besides the one that you've really articulated well? I think you've shared how it sounds like your son is thriving in terms of learning more and finding that he can find his space where learning is easier. What are some of the other rewards that you found just from this homeschooling choice?
I don't know how much I'm enjoying it.
Are you surprised by that a little bit?
I like being with my kids every day. We definitely have our bad days. So let me not make it sound like every day is
a real
heavenly day, right? We definitely have days that aren't so great. But we get through those, and they're really, in the end, they're worth it. Even the rough moments. I'm enjoying relearning some things that I forgot or hadn't learned before. I was a math major. I always loved math and computer science and science things. And so especially going back and learning the history with my son.
Yes.
Remembering, I remember that from, when I learned this, or, I didn't even know that man existed. And his contributions to society that I had no idea he even made. So that's been really fun to learn along with him.
It keeps it, I think, especially if you're used to a corporate environment or environment where you're going to work, you're used to getting that mental stimulus. And I think sometimes when people imagine homeschooling, they don't imagine that part. They don't imagine the fun that we have learning right along with our kids, stuff that we may have forgotten or never learned before. I know my best education was through homeschooling my kids, that's for sure. I feel much smarter because I homeschooled them, even more than just going to school.
Yeah, there's just a lot that you don't use. You know, I was in the corporate world, but I didn't use any knowledge of history and, you know, things like that in the corporate world. And so, yeah, relearning it has been a lot of fun. And even breaking out old books from my childhood has been just amazing.
So
I'm
grateful
my parents kept a lot of books from when I was a kid and passed them on to me when I had my kids. And so being able to pull off, you know, Mr. Popper's Penguins and Mrs. Pigglewiggle and all those books and reading them with my son out loud is just that's been really fun.
Well, and then you bring that enthusiasm to the whole learning experience, and they pick up on that. We have generations of kids loving Mrs. Pigglewiggle, so that's really cool. So what did you know, or what do you know about HSLDA?
Actually don't really know very much. I had intended to look up some more things before I came today, but being the busy homeschooling mom,
you're homeschooling, right?
Doing so many other things.
Reading Mrs. Pigglewiggle, which was much more important.
So yeah, I didn't really have a chance to look. So I haven't really explored the resources that you guys have available.
So if you were to look at your homeschool and think about what needs or resources you might appreciate now or in the future, what do you imagine?
I don't know. That's a really good question. So I think, I don't know how people manage to do it all, right? Like, because there are, you know, there are moms that not only are vacuuming the house and cleaning the bathrooms, they're working from home and they're doing lots of other things and wearing many hats, and, you know, finding that balance of, you know, cleaning up the clutter and leaving some out and getting the bathrooms clean and washing the dishes and making dinner, you know, kind of how, I don't know, how you find the balance and how you find, I don't know, how you feel good about yourself at the end of the day, thinking, okay, that was a good day. I did it all. Or not even doing it all. I don't know. But just that, I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sort of. Well, you like we talked about earlier, you did a great job, as compared to most of us, at least, who started homeschooling, speaking for myself, of kind of getting an idea of what expectations should look like, could look like, with capacity, with relationships, socializing for your son, education for your son, socializing for yourself. But at the end of the day, we really don't even know a lot of the questions to ask until you get into the nitty gritty. And like you're finding, the clutter is stressful.
Right.
How do we manage that? How do we engage our preschooler and our son in all of this? And I think that that's a part of where the new expectation setting comes in. And it sounds like you're sort of processing that and wondering what it might look like in other people's homeschools.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the fun part of doing these interviews, is because it looks like it's different for everyone. And you talked about a working mom. You're also kind of working, right?
Kind of working a little bit, yes. We talked about how I was in the corporate world. I'm technically still in. I quit a few years ago when my youngest was born, but I re-entered last year in a very low capacity, like literally just a few hours a week, to help out the department that I had been in previously, just kind of with any, I don't know, tasks that could be done from home. I don't need to go into the office. I can just log in while my daughter's taking a nap or my son's working on something else. But yeah, that balance has been hard to find, even just a few hours a week with the homeschooling and all the other tasks. And now we have the holidays and all the Christmas things, right? And so, yeah, I mean, life just throws a lot of things at you at once.
Yeah, and you're just getting your wheels on with homeschooling, and then to try to throw working in on that, that's kind of hard right away. Well, so when you went into homeschooling, did the issue of whether it was legal or what kind of things you had to do to meet state requirements, did any of that come to your mind?
Yeah, so it did. So I think I've actually either been on your site or maybe the HEAV site as well. And there are so many resources out there for homeschool parents. So there's many places to look. And even, you know, we're in Loudoun County, and Loudoun County Public Schools, you can actually submit your notice of intent to homeschool online. They have a website form. So honestly, if you Google, you can find out pretty much anything you need to know. So I did look up, you know, all the various requirements. I don't remember where I found specific things on specific websites. But yeah, we certainly looked that up to make sure that we were kind of dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's before we moved on.
And I think that that's one of the things that people first associate with HSLDA. They think, well, they're the people that, and it's true, we are the organization that helped really pave the way so it could be legal and easy like that in our state, but also too keeps it legal. And that's one of the really neat things about being a part of HSLDA or other HEAVs and everything, is by being a part of that, you're able to help support homeschooling freedoms, no matter if you're feeling that or not. And when you talked about your son not fitting well in the public school, were there any learning challenges that he might have been experiencing, or was it just not a good fit?
I think it just wasn't a good fit. He really loves to learn. He's just not much for sitting at a desk all day, or even sitting on the carpet when they would move to the carpet. He's, a fidgeter and needs to be active.
Right.
And so being at home gives us the opportunity to get up and take those breaks when we need them, to use fidget objects or whatever we need, to sit on the sofa to do our reading instead of sitting in a chair. So we can do all those things that make it easier for him. But he loved to learn. Like, he reads nonfiction books like other kids read Harry Potter.
That's great.
Right. So he loves all those random facts and things.
Well, so with your time, as you begin evolving more and more into your homeschooling experience and learning more about HSLDA, of course, we want you to know about us and all of our resources. But one of the things I'd like our audience to be reminded of is I am the program manager for our educational consultants. So a lot of people know about HSLDA's legal side, which is super important for all of us. But we also have this this homeschool guidance counselor resource that a lot of people don't know about. So we have 10 educational consultants with HSLDA. They have expertise in early years, in special needs and struggling learners, and high school. And so they are veteran homeschool moms with a tremendous amount of experience. And I think that when you get into homeschooling, you can feel a bit like you're on your own. Like you said, you can go to Google and you can Google all the things you want. At the end of the day, you're going, is this what I should do? How does this compare to other options that I could do? So we're like your homeschool guidance counselors, and that can be super helpful. And then as kids get older, sometimes in high school, middle school, the classes become more challenging. For you, it probably won't be math, but for others, it often is. And we have, HSLDA has an online academy. And so people can allow their children to have really rigorous courses through our online academy. But there are lots of other things that HSLDA offers. And over time, getting to know you, I will share those things with you.
Sounds
so
good.
What are some of any other surprises that came through homeschooling?
I think we already touched on them. One of the biggest surprises was how much I really loved it, and how much I loved being at home and being able to see what my child is learning and to help him learn it. I think it's, it's a really proud moment when, I'm not really sure if he's paying attention to something, but a few weeks later we'll be talking about something and he'll randomly reference something that we read out of a book a few weeks before. And I think, oh yeah, he was listening, and so it's kind of, I did that. I didn't really do it. He learned it. But to be able to enable that learning is fun. And then the other surprise really was my 3.5-year-old, how much she's learned and soaked up, and how much she wants to learn and be a part of all the things that we're doing. I wasn't really sure how that would go. And that's been a really fun surprise.
So all your surprises so far sound very positive.
They've been good. Like I said, we've had hard days. There are things that don't work periodically, but we just kind of roll with it and we adjust. If something's not working, we change it.
It's a great attitude.
We can do that.
It's a really flexible attitude, and that is really important in life, right? But in homeschooling especially. So what are you thinking about the future? You're having a really good first semester.
We've had a great first semester. When my husband and I decided that we would homeschool this fall, we agreed that it would be a kind of a year-by-year decision. Okay. We would see, since this is our first year and we're testing it out, we decided that we would go for a year and see what happens. So far, I'd say we're on track to maybe continue, at least with my son, but we haven't made any hard decisions yet. My daughter, I don't know if she'll continue on to middle school. And my 3-year-old, I can almost guarantee she will continue in preschool because she loves it. So no chance of homeschooling yet for her.
Well, and you're casting vision, though, for her as well as what that homeschooling elementary school experience, at least, would be like. Okay, well, Sarah, it has been an awesome pleasure talking to you. And it's really fun to hear about your first initial foray into the homeschooling experience. And we are really interested to see what's going to happen in your homeschooling journey as time goes on. There is a wonderful optimism and flexibility and capability that you're bringing to your homeschool. So I think you're doing a fabulous job. And I am the program manager for the homeschool guidance counselor. So I have real expertise in being able to say authoritatively, you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you very much.
So thank you so much for joining us today. This has been just an interesting time to catch up with someone who's brand new into the homeschooling experience. And I just want to thank you all for joining us and hope that you will sign up so that you can hear more about our Facebook Lives as we offer them in the future. We'll look forward to talking to Sarah again and others. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great day.